Welcome, the place where ordinary-looking American coins can lead to extraordinary discoveries. Today, we are taking a close look at a United States 5-cent coin that many people might overlook without a second thought, the 2000p Jefferson nickel. At first glance, this coin may appear to be nothing more than 5 cents, especially when it has already circulated and shows signs of everyday use. But coin collecting is all about the details, and sometimes the most interesting discoveries begin with a coin that looks completely ordinary. So before you spend, trade, or toss aside that 2000p nickel, take a moment to examine it carefully. Look at the date, check the mint mark, study Jefferson's portrait, inspect Monticello on the reverse, and pay attention to the overall condition. In this video, we are going to explore the history of the 2000p Jefferson nickel, explain what makes this coin interesting to collectors, discuss condition and varieties, and reveal the important factors that can determine whether your particular example is simply a 5-cent coin or something more exciting. The 2000p Jefferson nickel was produced during an important period in the history of United States coinage. The Jefferson nickel had already been a familiar part of American pocket change for decades, carrying the portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and an image of Monticello on the reverse. By the year 2000, this design had become one of the most recognizable coin designs in American history. The P mint mark tells us that this particular coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. For collectors, that tiny letter can be extremely important because mint marks help identify where a coin was produced and can help distinguish one issue from another. On your 2000p nickel, carefully look near the area where the mint mark should appear on the obverse. You are looking for a small p because coins can become dirty, scratched, worn, or damaged through circulation. Tiny details can sometimes be difficult to see. That is why examining a coin under good lighting and with gentle handling can make such a difference. Now let's talk about the condition of your 2000p Jefferson nickel, because condition is one of the biggest factors collectors consider. You describe this example as a fine coin, which means it has circulated but still retains recognizable design details. A circulated nickel can show wear on Jefferson's hair, cheek, jawline, and other high points of the portrait. On the reverse, the building of Monticello can also show wear, particularly around the steps, columns, windows, and lettering. The important thing to understand is that not every circulated coin is rare, and not every older-looking coin is automatically valuable. Collectors evaluate coins based on a combination of factors including rarity, demand, condition, varieties, mint errors, and overall eye appeal. A normal 2000p nickel in circulated condition will generally remain close to its face value. However, unusual varieties or genuine mint errors can create a completely different collecting story. That is why the goal should not simply be to find an old coin, but to find something unusual, authentic, and desirable to collectors. One of the most fascinating aspects of coin collecting is the search for mint errors. During the minting process, coins pass through numerous stages involving planchets, dies, presses, striking, inspection, and distribution. Although modern minting is highly precise, mistakes can occasionally occur. Collectors search for legitimate errors such as dramatic off-center strikes, certain die cracks, clips, broad strikes, doubled features, or other recognized minting abnormalities. But there is an important warning here. Damage that happens after a coin leaves the mint is not necessarily a mint error. Scratches, dents, discoloration, holes, gouges, polishing, and chemical damage can all occur during circulation or improper cleaning. A coin that looks strange is not automatically rare. For your 2000p nickel, inspect the lettering, portrait, rim, date, mint mark, and reverse design carefully. If something appears dramatically different from a normal example, compare it with trusted numismatic references or have it examined by a qualified professional before assuming it is a valuable error. Another fascinating area is the condition of the coin's surfaces. A fine circulated nickel may have scratches, small marks, dullness, and areas where the original mint luster has disappeared. These characteristics are normal for a coin that has spent years moving through pockets, cash registers, vending machines, and coin jars. But collectors can still appreciate a well-preserved circulated coin, especially when the design remains sharp and the surfaces are relatively attractive. The difference between an ordinary circulated coin and a high-grade example can sometimes be dramatic in the collector market. High-grade modern coins can be particularly interesting because enormous numbers may have been produced, yet only a much smaller percentage may survive with exceptionally clean surfaces and strong strikes. This is why simply finding a 2000p nickel is not enough. You need to look at the quality of the individual coin. Does Jefferson still have strong detail? Are the letters clear? Is Monticello well defined? Are the surfaces heavily scratched or surprisingly clean? These details help tell the story of your coin. Now here is something every new collector should remember. Never clean your coin just because it looks dirty. This is one of the most common mistakes beginners make. You may see dark spots, fingerprints, dull surfaces, or discoloration, and think that washing or polishing the coin will make it more valuable. In many cases, the opposite can happen. Cleaning can leave scratches, unnatural brightness, chemical damage, or other signs that collectors dislike. A coin's original surface is extremely important. If your 2000p Jefferson nickel is dirty, simply handle it carefully by the edges and avoid aggressive cleaning. If you want to preserve it, placing it in an appropriate non-damaging holder is generally a better approach than trying to make it look brand new. Remember, collectors want authenticity. A naturally circulated coin with honest wear can be much more desirable than a coin that has been heavily polished or altered. Let's take a closer look at the reverse because Monticello provides another opportunity to evaluate your nickel. The building represents Thomas Jefferson's historic home in Virginia, and it has appeared on the Jefferson nickel since the original design was introduced in 1938. On a circulated 2000p nickel, the details of Monticello may show varying degrees of wear. Examine the steps, columns, windows, roofline, and surrounding lettering. Also check the words 5 cents and United States of America. Compare the overall appearance with another normal Jefferson nickel if you have one available. Side-by-side comparisons can make unusual characteristics much easier to notice. Collectors often develop the habit of examining coins under magnification because small features that are difficult to see with the naked eye can become much clearer. However, magnification should be used to observe the coin, not to create an error where none exists. The next major factor is rarity, and this is where online coin videos can sometimes create confusion. You may see headlines claiming that a particular ordinary nickel is worth thousands, tens of thousands, or even more. But a dramatic headline does not automatically mean every example of that date and mint mark is worth that amount. Auction records usually refer to specific coins with specific grades, exceptional errors, or unusual characteristics. A normal circulated 2000p nickel should not be valued like an extraordinary certified rarity. This distinction is extremely important for responsible coin collecting. Instead of asking, "How much is every 2000p nickel worth?" ask, "What is special about my particular 2000p nickel?" That question leads you toward the real factors that determine collectible value. If your coin is simply a normal fine-condition example, it may have little premium over face value. If it has a genuine recognized error or an exceptional condition, however, the situation could be very different. Another thing worth checking is the edge of the coin. Hold the nickel carefully and examine the edge for anything unusual. Jefferson nickels normally have a plain edge rather than the reeded edge found on many other United States denominations. Look for obvious abnormalities, unusual metal characteristics, or damage that appears inconsistent with normal circulation. Again, be cautious because damage can mimic mint errors. A coin may be bent, scratched, filed, drilled, or chemically altered after leaving the mint. Professional collectors learn to distinguish manufacturing errors from post-mint damage. If you discover something genuinely unusual, take clear photographs and compare the feature against reputable numismatic references. Do not immediately assume a spectacular value. Authentication is especially important when a supposed error could potentially command a significant premium. The 2000p Jefferson nickel is also a great example of why coin collecting does not always require expensive antique coins. You do not necessarily need a rare 19th century gold coin to enjoy the hobby. Modern pocket change can teach you how to identify dates, mint marks, varieties, errors, condition, and design characteristics. Start by searching through your nickels and setting aside coins that catch your attention. Build a simple collection by date and mint mark. Keep track of the coins you find and learn how their condition affects desirability. Over time, you will begin noticing details that you previously ignored. That is one of the most rewarding parts of collecting. A 5-cent coin can become a small piece of history, and the process of researching it can be just as exciting as discovering a valuable rarity. So if you have a 2000p Jefferson nickel in fine condition sitting in a jar, drawer, or collection, don't automatically expect it to be worth a fortune, but don't ignore it either. Examine it carefully. Confirm the date. Confirm the P mint mark. Check Jefferson's portrait. Inspect Monticello. Study the lettering. Look for unusual striking characteristics, but remember the difference between a genuine mint error and ordinary damage. Most importantly, preserve the coin rather than cleaning or polishing it. If you believe you have discovered an unusual variety or error, consider getting a professional opinion or certification before making any major claims about its value. A coin's true worth is determined by its actual characteristics, condition, authenticity, rarity, and collector demand, not simply by its date. And now I want to hear from you. Do you have a 2000p Jefferson nickel in your collection? Is yours heavily circulated, fine, or surprisingly well preserved? Have you ever found a Jefferson nickel with an unusual error or variety while checking ordinary pocket change? Share your discovery in the comments because your coin could have an interesting story that other collectors would love to hear. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the 2000p 5-cent coin, make sure you support Rare Coins Info by hitting the like button, subscribing to the channel, and turning on notifications so you don't miss our next coin hunting adventure. Remember, the most exciting discoveries can begin with the smallest coins. Check your nickels, examine those mint marks, learn the details, and never assume that an ordinary-looking coin has nothing interesting to tell you. And finally, remember that any values discussed in coin collecting content are dependent on authenticity, grade, rarity, varieties, errors, market demand, and actual sales. Now let's move on to our second coin, and this time we are looking at a 2010 D Jefferson Nickel, a United States 5-cent coin carrying the D mint mark for the Denver Mint. At first glance, this may look like an ordinary modern nickel that you could easily spend without thinking twice, but that is exactly why coin hunting can be so exciting. Collectors know that the date and mint mark are only the beginning of the investigation. The real question is what condition the coin is in, whether it contains an unusual variety, and whether there is anything about the strike or surfaces that separates it from millions of ordinary examples. So before you drop that 2010 D nickel into a vending machine or leave it forgotten in a drawer, take a few seconds to examine it. Turn the coin over, look carefully at Jefferson's portrait, inspect the lettering, check the date, and then study the reverse design. You may not have a fortune in your hand, but you could have an interesting coin worth investigating. The 2010 D Jefferson nickel belongs to a fascinating chapter in the history of the 5-cent denomination. By 2010, the Jefferson nickel design had undergone important changes, particularly on the reverse. The modern Jefferson nickel features a portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse, while the reverse carries a depiction of Monticello. The D mint mark identifies Denver as the mint where the coin was struck. Mint marks are important to collectors because they allow coins from different production facilities to be distinguished. When you are searching through pocket change, that tiny letter can be one of the first things you should check. On a 2010 D nickel, locate the D and make sure you are looking at the correct date and mint combination. Then compare your coin with another 2010 Jefferson nickel if possible. Side-by-side comparisons can reveal differences in strike quality, surfaces, and design details that might otherwise go unnoticed. Now let's talk about condition, because condition can make an enormous difference in the world of modern coin collecting. A 2010 D nickel that has circulated for years may have scratches, contact marks, dull surfaces, and wear on the highest points of Jefferson's portrait. Another example from the same year and mint could have spent very little time in circulation and might retain much stronger detail and original mint appearance. These two coins can look surprisingly different despite being exactly the same date and mint mark. Collectors often separate circulated examples from coins that remain in uncirculated condition, and exceptionally preserved coins can attract more attention. However, remember that a coin simply being shiny does not automatically make it valuable. A coin can be artificially polished or damaged and still appear bright. What matters is the coin's original surfaces, strike, preservation, and overall quality. One of the most exciting things you can do with a 2010 D Jefferson nickel is search for unusual characteristics. Examine the date closely. Look at the digits and compare them with a normal example. Then move to the lettering and inspect the words Liberty and In God We Trust. On the reverse, carefully study the lettering surrounding Monticello. Look for anything that appears significantly different from a normal coin. But here is an important lesson for every collector. Unusual does not always mean valuable. Coins can become damaged after leaving the mint, and scratches, dents, discoloration, and other forms of circulation damage can create strange-looking features. A true mint error generally results from something that happened during the manufacturing process. Learning this distinction will help you avoid false discoveries and focus on characteristics that actually matter in numismatics. Another important area to inspect is the strike. A strong strike can produce crisp details across the coin, while a weaker strike may leave some areas less defined. Look closely at Jefferson's facial features, hair, and clothing details. Then examine the reverse and pay attention to the architectural details of Monticello and the surrounding lettering. If your 2010 D nickel has unusually sharp detail and minimal contact marks, it may be more interesting to collectors than a heavily circulated example. Modern coins are produced in enormous quantities, so finding a normal circulated example is not necessarily difficult. The challenge is finding an example with exceptional preservation, a recognized variety, or a genuine mint error. That is what makes careful searching so important. You are not simply looking for a date, you are looking for something that makes one coin different from another. You should also inspect the edge of your 2010 D nickel. Jefferson nickels normally have a plain edge, and examining the edge can sometimes help you notice unusual damage or abnormalities. Rotate the coin slowly under good lighting and look for anything that seems inconsistent with a normal nickel. If you notice a strange line, indentation, unusual shape, or apparent metal problem, don't immediately assume you have discovered a major error. Take photographs, compare the coin with known examples, and if necessary seek an experienced numismatist's opinion. Professional authentication becomes especially important if you believe the coin could have a valuable mint error. Many ordinary damaged coins are mistakenly advertised online as rare errors, so careful research is one of the most important skills a collector can develop. And here's something that makes the 2010 D nickel particularly useful for beginners. It reminds us that you don't need to search only through ancient or extremely old coins to enjoy coin collecting. Modern American coins can contain varieties, errors, condition rarities, and interesting production characteristics. Every coin you examine gives you another opportunity to learn. You can begin with a simple collection of Jefferson nickels organized by date and mint mark. As you continue, you can learn about grading, die varieties, strike quality, mint errors, and the differences between circulation damage and genuine mint-made characteristics. What begins as a 5-cent coin hunt can eventually turn into a serious numismatic hobby. Now let's address the question that everyone wants to ask. Could a 2010 D Jefferson nickel be worth much more than 5 cents? The honest answer is that a normal circulated 2010 D nickel generally isn't a jackpot coin simply because of its date and D mint mark. Its potential collectible premium depends on specific characteristics. A rare and authenticated mint error, an important variety, or an exceptionally high-grade example could be much more interesting than an ordinary circulated coin. This is why sensational claims about every 2010 D nickel being worth hundreds or thousands of dollars should be treated carefully. In coin collecting, the exact individual coin matters. Auction prices for exceptional specimens should never be interpreted as the value of every example of that date. If you have one of these coins, resist the temptation to clean it. This is especially important if your 2010 D nickel has attractive original surfaces. Cleaning, polishing, scratching, or applying chemicals can permanently damage the coin and potentially reduce its desirability to collectors. Instead, handle it gently by the edges and store it in an appropriate holder. If you discover something that looks unusual, preserve the coin exactly as you found it until you can determine what you have. Good lighting and magnification can help you inspect the coin, but remember that magnification is for observation, not for modifying the surface. The goal is to protect the original condition while you research the coin. So take another look at that 2010 D Jefferson nickel. Check the date, confirm the Denver D mint mark, inspect Jefferson's portrait, study the Monticello reverse, examine the lettering, and carefully look for legitimate mint-made abnormalities. Even if your coin turns out to be a normal circulated nickel worth only its face value, you have still gained something valuable: knowledge. And that is one of the greatest rewards of coin collecting. Every ordinary coin gives you a chance to learn something about American history, manufacturing, design, and the collectors who study these little pieces of metal. Now it's your turn. Have you ever found a 2010 D Jefferson nickel in your pocket change, coin jar, or old collection? What condition is yours in? Have you noticed any unusual marks, strange lettering, doubling, off-center striking, or other characteristics? Let me know in the comments because your discovery could make this coin hunt even more interesting. If you enjoyed this 2010 D Jefferson nickel investigation, make sure to like this video, subscribe to Rare Coins Info, and turn on notifications for more United States coin discoveries. And remember, don't judge a coin only by its age or appearance. Sometimes the smallest details are what make a coin worth a second look. Always research before selling. Never clean a potentially collectible coin, and remember that actual values depend on authenticity, condition, rarity, varieties, errors, certification, collector demand, and current market conditions. Now let's move to the third coin in our collection, and this time we have a 2017 D Jefferson nickel, a United States of America 5-cent coin struck at the Denver Mint. At first glance, a 2017 D nickel may look like nothing more than ordinary pocket change, and because it is a relatively modern coin, many people would probably spend it without giving it a second thought. But that is exactly what makes modern coin hunting so exciting. Collectors don't simply look for old coins. They look for unusual varieties, mint errors, exceptional condition, and coins with characteristics that separate them from ordinary examples. So if you have a 2017 D Jefferson nickel, don't immediately throw it into a jar or vending machine. Take a closer look. Check the date, find the tiny D mint mark, inspect Jefferson's portrait, study the reverse, and examine the surfaces carefully. The coin may be completely ordinary, but the process of checking it could teach you exactly what professional coin hunters look for. The 2017 D. Jefferson Nickel is part of the long-running Jefferson Nickel series that has been a familiar part of American commerce for generations. The obverse features Thomas Jefferson, one of the most recognizable figures in American history, while the reverse features Monticello, Jefferson's famous Virginia home. The D tells collectors that this particular example was produced at the Denver Mint. That small letter can be easy to overlook, especially when a coin has circulated and accumulated scratches, dirt, discoloration, or other signs of everyday use. But for a collector, the mint mark is an important piece of information. When you find a 2017 nickel, always check whether it carries a D, P, or another mint designation where applicable. Then compare coins from different mints and see how their condition and appearance differ. Now let's talk about the condition of your 2017 D nickel. Because this is a modern coin, many examples can still be found in relatively good condition compared with much older Jefferson nickels. However, circulation can quickly leave its mark. A coin that has traveled through thousands of transactions can develop small scratches and contact marks across Jefferson's face and the open fields around the portrait. The reverse can also show marks across Monticello and the surrounding lettering. If your coin is heavily circulated, it may have limited collector premium beyond its face value. But if you discover an exceptionally well-preserved example with strong original surfaces, sharp details, and very few marks, it becomes more interesting from a condition perspective. This is why two coins with the exact same date and mint mark can have very different levels of collector appeal. When examining the obverse, start with Jefferson's portrait. Look closely at the hair, forehead, cheek, jawline, and other raised areas. Circulation tends to wear the highest points first, while contact marks can appear anywhere on the surface. Next, examine the words "In God We Trust" and "Liberty," followed by the date and the D mint mark. Look for clarity and consistency. If something appears doubled, unusually shaped, or dramatically different, compare it with a normal 2017 D nickel before drawing conclusions. Many apparent errors are actually caused by scratches, machine damage, die deterioration, or post-mint damage. A true mint error is something that happened during the manufacturing process, and identifying one requires careful observation and sometimes professional authentication. The reverse of the 2017 D. Jefferson Nickel deserves just as much attention. Study the Monticello building and examine the surrounding inscriptions. Look at the columns, windows, roofline, and other architectural details. Then inspect EPLURIBUSUNUM, United States of America, and 5 cents. A good comparison coin can be extremely helpful. Put a normal nickel next to your 2017 D and compare the two under the same lighting. You may notice differences in strike quality, surface marks, color, and detail. Remember, though, that not every difference represents a valuable variety. Coins can be struck differently, stored differently, or damaged differently. The goal is to learn how to distinguish normal variation from a genuinely collectible characteristic. One of the biggest reasons collectors enjoy searching modern nickels is the possibility of finding a genuine mint error. During the production of coins, enormous numbers of pieces must be struck and inspected. Although modern minting technology is highly sophisticated, errors can still occur. Collectors may encounter characteristics such as off-center strikes, clips, broad strikes, die cracks, or other recognized mint-made abnormalities. But the word error should be used carefully. A scratch created by another coin is not a mint error. A dent from a machine is not necessarily a mint error. A coin that has been chemically altered after leaving the mint is not automatically valuable. Before celebrating a strange-looking 2017 D nickel, research the feature and compare it with documented examples. Another important inspection is the edge of the coin. Jefferson nickels have a plain edge, so turn your 2017 D nickel sideways and examine it under good lighting. Look for obvious abnormalities, damage, unusual deformation, or anything that seems inconsistent with a normal nickel. If the coin appears bent or damaged, don't assume that the mint created the feature. Coins can experience significant abuse after entering circulation. They can be crushed, scratched, flattened, drilled, heated, chemically treated, or exposed to harsh environments. The difference between post-mint damage and a genuine production error is extremely important. If your coin has a feature that you believe could be a major mint error, preserve it in its current condition and seek an experienced numismatic opinion before making any decisions about its value. Now comes the question that attracts every coin hunter. How much could a 2017 Jefferson nickel be worth? The answer depends entirely on the individual coin. A normal circulated 2017 nickel generally isn't automatically a high-value coin simply because it carries a Denver mint mark. Most examples will remain close to face value. However, exceptional condition, recognized varieties, or genuine mint errors can potentially create additional collector interest. This is why you should never assume that every 2017 nickel is worth hundreds or thousands of dollars based on a sensational internet headline. Serious collectors and dealers look at the actual characteristics of the individual coin. Condition, authenticity, rarity, market demand, and documented sales all matter. And please remember one of the most important rules in coin collecting. Don't clean your nickel. If your 2017 coin looks dark, dirty, dull, or discolored, you may be tempted to wash it or polish it until it shines. Don't do it. Cleaning can create scratches and unnatural surfaces that can permanently change the appearance of the coin. Collectors generally prefer original surfaces, even when those surfaces show normal circulation. Handle your nickel by the edges and keep it protected if you believe it may be collectible. If you discover something unusual, preserve it exactly as you found it while you investigate. A coin's original condition is part of its story, and once that surface is damaged, you cannot truly restore it to its original state. What makes the 2017 Jefferson Nickel especially interesting is that it proves coin collecting doesn't have to begin with an ancient coin. You can start with the change in your pocket. You can search through old jars, drawers, cash boxes, and collections. You can organize your Jefferson Nickels by date and mint mark and gradually learn how the series changed over time. Along the way, you'll become familiar with normal strikes, common damage, different levels of wear, and the characteristics collectors watch for. The more coins you examine, the faster your eyes become at spotting details. That experience is something you cannot gain simply by reading a price list. You gain it by actually looking at coins. So if you have a 2017 Jefferson Nickel, give it a proper examination before spending it. Confirm the date and Denver mint mark. Inspect Jefferson's portrait, lettering, and surfaces. Turn it over and carefully study Monticello. Check the edge and look for unusual characteristics, but remember that strange-looking damage isn't automatically a mint error. Compare your coin with normal examples and research any unusual feature before making a value claim. Most importantly, don't clean or alter the coin. Even if your 2017 nickel turns out to be a completely normal 5-cent piece, you've still taken another step toward becoming a better coin collector. And now I want to hear from you. Do you have a 2017 Jefferson Nickel in your collection? Is yours circulated, fine, or in surprisingly beautiful condition? Have you ever discovered an unusual Jefferson Nickel while checking your pocket change? Tell me about your coin in the comments. If you enjoyed this investigation, make sure to hit like, subscribe to Rare Coins Info, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next coin hunting adventure. Remember, the value of a coin isn't determined by dramatic headlines alone. Actual value depends on authenticity, condition, rarity, recognized varieties or errors, certification when applicable, collector demand, and current market conditions. This video is provided for educational and entertainment purposes. Keep searching, keep learning, and always check your 5-cent coins, because sometimes the smallest details are the reason a seemingly ordinary nickel deserves a second look.